Hey everyone, it's time for a review. Yeah, I do that occasionally. What of it? Today's review is going to be of Fire Emblem Fates. Specifically, I have recently finished playing Fire Emblem Birthright. I am working on my way through Conquest, but I feel like I have a good enough idea of both games that I can give you a proper review. In case you don't know, I am a Fire Emblem addict. I've loved Fire Emblem all through its iterations here in the US. Not really tried any of the Japanese games, but I love Fire Emblem, and I love the playstyle, and I love the strategy, and I really have enjoyed the more modern versions. Like, I felt like they've been getting better as you go, and Fire Emblem Awakening is one of my favorite games, just in general. So I was really stoked to get my hands on Fates, both versions, yes, which turned out to be really hard to do, but that's a story for another time. So I'm gonna assume for this review that you are at least a little bit familiar with Fire Emblem. I'm not gonna really take time to explain to you how Fire Emblem works. Just know that these games run very similarly to previous Fire Emblem games mechanics-wise. Also, I apologize for the crappy footage that I'm going to be showing. I do not have a device that allows me to record from handheld systems, so I had to just record the system. I didn't want to use other people's footage because I don't like doing that if I can help it. It's just, if I can help it, if I can at all help it, I don't like to use other people's footage. So I'm going to show you some stuff, but it's going to be kind of poor quality. I apologize. Hopefully I will make up for it with my witty banter. Okay, so I split this up into categories, the first category being battles, because everybody knows the battles are the reason that you really play Fire Emblem, and that's the reason that I do. The tactics, the planning, making all the different characters and classes work for you, that's where my brain is definitely at. The battles were very similar to previous Fire Emblem games, especially to Fire Emblem Awakening, so nothing too new there. I did enjoy that when you go into a battle, you know, if you have the battle animations on, which I usually don't, but I'll turn them on for you here. If you go into a battle, it sort of zooms in and takes you to the terrain that your characters are actually standing on, versus in previous games it would just take you to a generic battlefield background. I also feel like the battle animations are more engaging. Again, I usually turn them off because they get kind of long, but the characters each kind of have their own little quirks that they sometimes add to it, which I really enjoy. Of course, we have the weapons triangle. It is still here in this game. However, it definitely feels like it is not as important. It definitely feels like it's a lot more down to the stats of your character, and if they're using like a good sword, it doesn't matter if lances are good against them. I remember the weapons triangle being so huge in previous games where you really had to line up the right unit with the right enemy, and these days it doesn't seem to really matter as much anymore. It's there, it helps a little, but in reality, you're probably going to be able to beat or not beat your enemy based on your stats more than you are on the weapons triangle. We also, of course, still have the beast units and the flying units. There are a couple of beast units that you can use, different ones for each version of the game, Birthright or Conquest. And you have your flying units, your Pegasus riders, and your Wyvern riders, and they are all pretty much the same as in previous games. You also have a dragon character as well, and they kind of have very similar weaknesses and strengths to previous Fire Emblem games. In this game, I think, as far as I know, for the first time, weapons do not break down as you use them, which was really odd to me. I guess it's okay, but I'm so used to weapons breaking down. The only ones that do have limited uses are staves, which actually kind of frustrated me because I kept forgetting, because nothing else was breaking down, that I needed to replace the staves. I would much rather have it where all the weapons break down and you have to get new ones than having to remember just to replace one kind of weapon. That or make staves be, you know, all unlimited uses as well. I'm not exactly sure why they did that. Also, I kept forgetting to equip my dudes with better stuff, because usually when I was playing the game, their old weapons would naturally break down, and when those weapons were broken, I would then go and get them better things to replace those. But because they never break down, I often forgot to do my equipping in between battles, because I didn't have to worry about that. It threw me a little bit, I'll be honest with you. Once again, you have pairing up with an ally to face an enemy, although it is a little bit different in this version. When you pair up, which means both units are occupying the same square, only one will attack and all the other one can do is block. No more will we have the situation that we had in Awakening, where both units occupying the same square would attack the enemy. If you want to do that, the units have to be in adjacent squares to each other, and then they will both attack the enemy. The same goes for the enemy's units. If they are in adjacent squares, they will both attack you, or if they are paired up, the other one can defend. I didn't like this as much. It made the gameplay a little bit more frustrating to me, especially when I was so spoiled by Awakening, where I could just have these husband and wife pairs that were just destruction machines. They would just go around the battlefield just murdering the fuck out of everything because they were this invincible pair together. And that's not a thing anymore. If you want them to actually be both killing the enemy, you have to have them side by side instead of paired up together. And it also still takes a turn completely for you to drop off the unit that you're paired with. So like if you want to rush up to the enemy with your flying unit and then drop off another unit so you can fight together, you're gonna have to fly up there, drop him off, and then the enemy gets a turn before you can do anything. One thing I noticed in this game is that none of my units ever got to feel hugely powerful, and I'm kind of disappointed by that too. I like to feel weak at the beginning of the game, but by the end, I kind of like to feel that at least my main character can go off on their own and kick some butt without having to be babysat by other units. But this game definitely felt like, especially, you know, if you're playing on harder difficulties, definitely felt like your units were super squishy, especially I noticed in Birthright. My entire team was made up of glass cannons. They could kill the enemy, sure, but if an enemy got a couple hits on them, they were done. It was kind of frustrating and annoying, and I wished that I had at least a few units that I could just leave by themselves and not have to worry that they were gonna die if an enemy came over and breathed on them. Especially my main character. I'm sorry, but by the end of a game, I really do like my main character to be super badass. At the beginning, it's fine, but by the final levels, I really want my main character to be able to just by herself kill an average unit. Not a boss, obviously, but an average horse-riding guy. If we could just kill that guy and his friend wouldn't then immediately kill me right after that, that'd be great. But maybe I'm being too picky, I don't know. I played on like the medium setting, which I think is hard, but it's the one I usually play on because I like the challenge, but I don't want to cry, so I always play on the medium one. And also, I played with the casual setting where units, there was no permadeath. Call me a wuss if you want to, I don't care. I am too obsessive about keeping my characters alive, and in previous Fire Emblem games, I have actually quit the game because I couldn't keep everybody alive in a battle. That's how serious my OCD is about that. So it makes the playing experience better for me and my neurotic brain if I turn permadeath off. Okay, let's talk about the characters. All of the characters in this game were pretty good, but I felt like they weren't as good as in some previous games, especially Awakening. The characters in Awakening were all very original looking and all very original feeling. I felt like all of them were people that I wanted to get to know, and I never got tired of their support conversations. But playing through Birthright, there were some characters where I zoned out during their support conversations. I was just skimming, and that was my first time through when you'd think I would really be paying attention. A lot of the characters were samey. A couple of them were blatant reskins of characters from Awakening, which made me mad. And their personalities were all very similar a lot of the time. So I didn't really connect with too many of them. Maybe as I play through the games again, they will grow on me, and I think I am liking the characters a little bit better in Conquest than I did in Birthright. So maybe that's just a little bit down to my taste in characters, I don't know. Two characters that I did absolutely love were Selkie, who is an adorable little fox girl. She's not even that useful in battle later in the game, but I called her my fluffy baby and she was adorable. And Shigure, my Pegasus Knight, blue hair, and I paired him with Selkie, and they have literally the cutest relationship I have ever seen. Their support comments are adorable, and I can never pair them with anyone except for each other now. How the characters get along is a lot more important in this game than it previously was. You can go to this like special place where you can find out how well characters get along, and depending on what scores they get, they're gonna give each other better bonuses in battle. I'm not sure if I like it because I often liked pairing up whatever units I felt like, and especially units that don't seem to get along at first. So I feel it's a little bit annoying that I feel like I can't, if I want really good pairs, I can't do whoever the fuck I want. Made me sad. So let's talk about the story. I really clicked with the story, especially, I mean, I know it's kind of a gimmick and they really do just want my money, but I like the idea of having both sides of the story represented in two games. Obviously, in Birthright and in Conquest, you play opposing nations to each other, so in Birthright, you're on one side and you play through, and then Conquest, you're on the other side and you play through, basically going the other way through many of the maps, which is really quite interesting. You'd think it would be frustrating, because you're like, well, they're just reusing maps, but they do a good enough job at varying it that you get to the map and you're like, I remember this map, but now I'm in a totally different place and I need to use a totally different strategy. So I liked it still. I liked the idea of the branching fates, of the different paths, and of the consequences for your character depending on which one they choose. However, I wish that later in the game they had given us a few like token dialogue options or a few other options to choose what paths we took in the game, because they set a precedent with you getting to make such a big decision early in the game about which path to take, and then to have that agency sort of ripped from you and your character just going along wherever people tell them. I don't know, it felt like, can you at least give me a few like yes or no questions that don't even matter but make me feel like my character has an opinion on anything? I don't know, I'm fine with being manipulated like that. I'd feel more immersed if that was a thing. Or something simple like there's two locations that you could go to and your character has to pick one. Maybe the consequences will be the same, but it'll feel like your character's choosing something as simple as, do we do a frontal assault on the gate or do we sneak around by way of the mountain pass? You could even use the same map, just put your units in a different place. Overall, though, I really liked this story better than Awakening. Awakening could be a little bit confusing at times, and even though I love the characters, the story was never what I came back for. But both Birthright and Conquest have that engaging story of the consequences of your initial action and the path that you chose. And the entire story is you having to deal with the family that you essentially abandoned, the family that is now your enemy, and dealing with those people. And there are some really touching scenes in Birthright with your adopted siblings that really gave me the feels, more than a lot of Fire Emblem games have in the past. So I had to do fan art of these scenes because they gave me those feels. That's good. Good job. Okay, so there are a couple of things that maybe don't fit into the categories, such as your castle that you can kind of design yourself, and you can be invaded by other people online and you can invade their castles. However, you cannot like personally defend your castle from an online player. When you attack them, their units are run by the AI. It's not an actual like real-time battle with someone else online, which I really wish that we could do, and I'm surprised that we aren't doing yet, because that would be really fun and challenging and interesting to see who's doing what units they're using, what strategy they like to use. Plus, I just want to beat up my husband and show him who's the better tactician. Also, of course, there's a customization of your main character at the beginning, and I feel like it really does connect you to the character more, makes you feel like you're really getting into their story because you can design how they look. But maybe that's just me. So there you go, those are my thoughts on Fire Emblem Fates. Have you played it yet? Comment below, let me know if you played, what you thought, who's your favorite character, what's your favorite strategy, tell me all your secrets, yes. Yes. Do you think I'm a wuss for playing on casual and not letting there be permadeath? I don't care. Leave a comment. Let me know. But anyway, that's it for this review. I'll see you guys all next time, either on my Let's Play, which you can go check out, links in the doobly-doo, or on Top 5 Wednesdays. Links to that in the doobly-doo as well. Linked. Yes. I'll see you later.